So I always said that I didn't ever want to coach because I'd spent so many years in the gym, and it's a big commitment to be an elite coach. So I always thought I didn't want to do it, but having had the support from Sportwear, very selfish as an athlete to being all about everybody else and kind of completely selfless. So it's a very big transition, but I'm so glad I've made it because I absolutely love coaching now. So I think when you're an athlete and you change over to being a coach, you know what you've been taught, and you know, like, the first few levels of coaching I had some support, but you don't really get the big picture. So I found doing the athlete to coach program really made me think about a much wider scale of what coaching actually is, rather than just what I've been coached my whole life and what I've seen as an athlete. You see the other perspective as a coach, and also mixing with other sports coaches was like very, very eye-opening, and seeing what they think about and how that can translate into a different sport was really, really interesting. So some of it was just kind of going to watch other coaches coaching, and like, I think my gut reaction is to speak, and in gymnastics there's a lot of like, this was wrong, that was wrong, how to fix everything, because you get that, you see the routine and you want to say immediately before you've forgotten that needs fixing, that needs fixing. But sometimes it's kind of just sitting back a bit on some of the information. And I noticed, especially working with the other sports, that sometimes they're very quiet in coaching and watch a lot more. So it kind of really reminded me, actually, visual skills and watching and listening were just important. And then the theory stuff that we did behind that, like on the listening skills and how to actually read what they're saying without just assuming and things like that, was really, really useful. I think so for me, as I said earlier, the fact that I had to be very selfish as an athlete, you have to think about yourself all the time, to actually think different motivations, like learning how to read behaviours and actually thinking, oh, that child is upset not because of this, but because their motivation comes from something else. It's quite tricky for me, and reading signs without actually them telling you sometimes, because they're not always willing to talk to you about it. So just kind of that sort of side of it was for me, like, being more what's going on around me rather than what's happening with me. So projecting out rather than inwards was the thing that I have found has been the biggest learning curve whilst I've been coaching. So for me, I'm not very confident at all in that sort of sense. I think when I went and competed, it was a show. You put on your costume, you put on your makeup in rhythmic gymnastics, and when you walk on the floor, it's more like it's not you for me. It's more like I'm doing a show, I'm doing my routine that's been choreographed, and I feel like I'm in a bubble and it's not actually me. So for actual coaching, confidence is completely different. And I find just really knowing what I'm talking about helps me to be more confident. And when I don't know, I'm a very honest coach. I'll just say, look, I'm not quite sure on that thing. I'm going to go and check with somebody who will know, and then I'll come back to you, rather than just tell you something, because I think for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable saying something if I wasn't 100% sure. So that's how I kind of gain confidence for it. For me, like when I first started coaching, we've started putting together a program for the younger athletes, and I was always like, oh no, I don't want the really young gymnasts, I don't think I can cope with them, I don't have the patience. And actually I found that I love coaching the young ones, and I have quite a natural ability to communicate with them. I actually really, really enjoy coaching like the really young 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and just kind of that communication and really basic level stuff I've really, really enjoyed. I found the most challenging aspect of coaching and transitioning from athlete to coach has been the patience side of it, because I feel like I've done it all. Like, I've sat and done 1,000 of whatever it is that I'm trying to teach them, and then they need to do that. They haven't actually done 1,000 for themselves, but I feel like they have because I have. If that makes it, it's probably quite hard to understand. So sometimes the patience of actually just watching them doing it over and over and over, I struggle with, because I feel like they've done more because I've done more, which is completely crazy. But also kind of different motivations. And understanding where an athlete's coming from, if their motivation is very different to mine, and trying to understand what's actually going on in their head, because I'm very self-driven, and I want to be the best when I was competing, so I would always push and put it 100% in when I was training. And sometimes when athletes aren't quite as motivated, I struggle with that. I think the girls that I've been coaching have just made it the best thing for me. I've been super lucky with the ones that from the very beginning when I first started coaching, I got a group of girls, and they were so enthusiastic and worked so well as a team, and kind of brought me in as like a family. So kind of seeing them develop. So I loved in myself when I was training the development from not being able to do something to being able to do it. So actually seeing them develop, not just as gymnasts but as humans as well, because they're growing up pretty much when they're doing that many hours in the gym. So actually seeing them developing life skills as well and being able to guide them a little bit, I love that. I think every single skill has to be worked on daily, every single day, all the time. You're never going to be the best in the world coach. Like, you have to develop and move with the sport and move, like, the more you know, the better, I think, for coaching. There's so many levels of it, like so many like injuries and development as humans, development as the athletes, technical knowledge. Like, there's so much to make such a full coach that I think it's important to just try and develop in every single aspect as much as you can.